Hello, it's Steve again from Buxton Mountain Rescue team, and today I thought we'd carry on our exploration of the response bags with bag 4. Don't forget, there's a couple of videos out there of Kerry talking about bag 1, our first aid kit, and then there's a couple of fantastic videos from myself, Oxygen and Entonox, bags 2 and 3. So what's in bag 4, I hear you scream? The enigmatic bag 4. If I was being a little bit unkind, I might just say everything else that's not in bags 1 to 3. I think that would be a little bit unkind, because bag 4 has the most important function is it starts to get us ready to take the casualty home or take the casualty to hospital. Let's have a look what's inside. As you can see, it's quite a meaty bag. Just weighed it, almost bob on 10 kilos. So not a light carry, especially if the rescuer has also got to carry their own personal kit along with this. As you can see, not only everything inside it, but we've got a couple of important things outside. What many of you will recognise as a carry mat. As you can see, bog standard carry mat, great for sitting on, keeping the casualty warm, keeping rescuers warm. We can also use it to lay out on rough ground and sometimes just pile kit up on it to try and keep kit organised, keep kit clean, so we know where stuff is. On the other side, a little bit weirder, this is our box splint. As you can imagine, much of our custom is lower leg injuries, and this is a splint to stabilise and steady lower leg injuries, twisted ankles, broken tibs and fibs, that sort of thing. So I'm sure you've guessed, bag 4 means it's the 4th response bag that comes out of the vehicles on the way to any incident. I like to think of bag 4 as the first bag that is about getting the casualty home. If you remember, bag 1, massive first aid kit, helps keep the casualty alive, stabilise the casualty, whatever they've done. Bag 2, oxygen, ditto, helps keep the casualty alive, keeps the casualty healthy. Bag 3, starting to think about relieving the symptoms of the casualty, give the casualty some pain relief, because they're going to want that if we're going to want to move them, pick them up, or anything else we might want to do. Bag 4 though, has got all those things in that we need to what we call package the casualty, get the casualty wrapped up warm, stabilised, popped onto our stretcher and carried down the hill. Before we go inside, I remind you that, as you can imagine, it's got a helpful label, but it's got these tags. These tags are so that when I come along to this, or anybody else comes along to this bag, if this tag is intact, I know that everything is in there that should be in there. Let's have a look inside. Lots of lovely kit to play with. First one, warm sleeping bag. As you can imagine, anybody who's hurt on the hill, as soon as they stop moving, they get cold. And this is our first response to that. We do actually carry a much bigger, much warmer casualty bag, but this one goes up first. In addition to the casualty bag to keep people warm, we've got a box tent. Massive shelter, throw this over the casualty, throw this over the first aider and anybody else who happens to be helping at the site. Keeps the wind off, keeps them nice and warm. Don't forget, we could actually go to a casualty who's at the bottom of a cliff face or at the bottom of steep ground, potential for things to fall on the casualty, so we have a helmet there that we can pop on the casualty, protect their head from falling debris. And now we can start to think about what have we got to stabilise the casualty. Don't think I've mentioned it before, but one of the most important things we can do to relieve pain is to try and keep an injured limb steady, keep an injured limb still. We might call that splinting. And most of this in here now is about splintage. It's about keeping things still if they're injured so that we can carry the casualty, pop them on our stretcher, take them to hospital. We've got a couple of stamp splints. Aluminium foil essentially, quite thick, very easily shaped. Fantastic for things like arm splints, wrist splints, that sort of thing. A lot of people carry these. Fantastic piece of kit, very light, which is always a good thing if you've got to carry them. Rather than tying things up with bandages like we used to do, we've now got these, what we call frac straps or fracture straps. Lots of Velcro, very versatile. Wrap this around, maybe tie a limb to another limb if we want to keep it nice and straight. We can use these to lock a limb inside our box splint. All sorts of things. In addition to the box splint, which is great for lower legs, ankles, that sort of thing, we've got 3 more additional splints here within the box. 2 of the same splint but different sizes. These are pelvic splints. These are fantastic, in fact more than fantastic. These are a lifesaver if we happen to have a casualty who's broken their pelvis. Broken pelvises are particularly unpleasant, particularly lethal, particularly dangerous, and we use these to stabilise a pelvis, splint a pelvis, once again so we could pick up the casualty, pop them on our stretcher, take them away to hospital. And then we have something that wouldn't be unrecognised in a medieval torture chamber, I don't think. This is a particular special splint we have for if somebody has a broken femur. Once again, broken femurs, big bone, nasty injury, life-threatening injury, and this, as well as splinting that, stopping it moving, we'll be able to apply what we call a little bit of traction to this. And last thing we have inside here, most obvious thing we have inside here, you might remember from all manner of first aid courses that sometimes you just have to cut a shoe off. If someone's injured their foot, we want to look at it, we want to see the colour of it, we want to have a proper look at it before we do anything. Of course that means that the casualty's foot now is exposed to the elements. Very simply, nice fleece, sock, keep the foot warm. Next, unexpected, couple of pieces of floor tiling. Actually, these are very slippery and that's what we use them for. These are absolutely fantastic for sliding something under the casualty. What we might do, one of our pelvic splints, they're really difficult to get on because we have to slide it underneath the casualty. That of course jiggles the casualty around, which is the last thing we want if we suspect that they've hurt their pelvis. What we do is we sandwich it between these, very slidey. This then we can slide into place under the casualty. We slide one out, wrap the pelvic splint around, tighten it up, and then take the other one away. Fantastic piece of kit. I'd love to know who came up with that as such an idea. Very surprised to say that at the moment some medical manufacturer hasn't patented this and tried to charge us a fortune for little bits of carpet. Nearly done in the main compartment. A couple of more interesting things. We have another survival blanket. Bit of a preoccupation with keeping people warm. That's because being cold when you're injured is really bad for the injury. Not a good thing at all. In a similar vein to that, heat pack. You might have seen something like this for your hands. We crack this open, expose it to the air, chemical reaction takes place and this warms up. We can pop these on the casualty, pop these inside the outer layer of the casualty's clothing to help warm them up. So that's all of the main compartment. Still quite heavy. Must be a whole lot of other stuff in here somewhere. This is mostly stuff that whoever's in charge at the site uses to coordinate the other rescuers and start to think about getting the casualty off this hill to hospital or home. Next, high-vis vest. Somebody needs to be in charge, and this is the best way we've found of identifying who's in charge at the site. Couple of topical things at the moment: COVID masks, hand sanitizer. And then all of this is what somebody in charge at the site might need. Maps, also strobe light, really great for identifying the casualty site. So we've got some people on site already, but we want more rescuers arrive, the stretcher parties arrive, or helicopters flying in. Use a strobe to identify the site. Helicopters coming in, we might want to put some goggles on the casualty. Helicopters notorious for throwing up all manner of grit and dirt and one thing or another. We've thought about the casualty and protecting the casualty's head from debris. We might want to consider putting some goggles on to protect the casualty's eyes. We all have our own personal goggles, but casualty might need some. Yet more protection for the casualty if the helicopter's coming in. Earbuds, helicopters are loud. And finally, help helicopters find us, a couple of flares. Also helps the helicopter decide which way the wind's blowing, and that'll determine as to which way the helicopter wants to approach and where the helicopter wants to land. As you can see, if we were being cruel, we could say everything else, but I hope you can see that what is actually in bag 4 is the stuff we need to get the casualty away. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, video on bag 1 by Kerry, 2 videos by myself on bags 2 and 3, Oxygen and Entonox. Keep an eye out for other videos. Don't forget to subscribe.